Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start, Daniel. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to be talking about contracting with California state government, and we're going to give a broad introduction to contracting with the state of California, state government to sell your products and services. So this is me. My name is Joann. My last name is Patty. I'm a business outreach liaison with the Office of Small Business and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Services under the umbrella of the California Department of General Services. So this is my phone number, as you guys can see here, and my email. Definitely, if you need to get a hold of me, shoot me an email. This will also be available to you guys at the end of the presentation. And just a heads up, you will be receiving these slides. So we have a lot of content to cover today. If you guys want to go ahead, since you are all live streaming out there, type in your questions in the live stream, and then Daniel will go ahead and chat them to me, and then I will go ahead and throughout the presentation, we have times for question and answer, and I will happily answer those to the best of my ability. If you guys have individual and specific questions that only relate to you and your business, go ahead. We offer an opportunity to have a one-on-one consultation. I'll give you guys the link for that, or email me those. That way, when we have a computer in front of us, we can really dive in, really help you. So if you guys have questions that relate to the whole group or the material being presented, totally throw those in the chat. But those individual ones where it would really work for a one-on-one, we are happy and excited to do those one-on-ones. We love to do them. So I'll definitely make sure that we leave you with the resources to where we can do that, or just shoot me an email. So this is how you can reach me. And again, this will be available after the webinar. So like I said, we got a lot to cover today, you guys. We're going to cover a deep dive into the procurement process. And we're going to look at things like acquisition methods, leverage procurement agreements, and where to find them. We're going to look at solicitation formats, and we're going to look at commercially useful function, which might be a little bit an overview if you've ever seen any of our other webinars, but it's very important to talk about. So we're going to cover that again. And then, like I said before, resources. Resources are super important to help you guys with contract opportunities and helping your business grow. So we'll be definitely giving you some resources at the end of this presentation. So let's start by taking a look at how the state of California buys. So the state of California uses taxpayer dollars to purchase goods and services. One example is how you and I buy. So we walk into the store and we buy it. We buy a product or service because we think it's a good idea. We think it's a fair price. We really need it. All those reasons. The government, however, is spending taxpayer dollars. And with those taxpayer dollars, that is influenced by rules, regulations, and laws. So these laws, rules, and regulations result in how the state can actually spend taxpayer money. And this is called the procurement process. And there's many different processes for purchasing various goods and services. There are many norms and common procurement processes, and there are many exceptions to those norms. So you will hear me say it depends a lot. And we're going to go through the major parts and know why they are important, but there's always, it depends sometimes, right? So it depends on the specific procurement, the specific leverage procurement agreement, et cetera. But knowing how the state procurement process works, it's really important because it increases your ability to get a contract when you understand how the state buys. You also can understand which ones are a good level of risk and how to figure out where there are actually opportunities. Okay, so there are several parts to the procurement process that a state of California buyer must actually follow. The authority to conduct the procurement, the need of their department or office, the acquisition method, and the solicitation format are all parts of that process that are important for certified businesses to know about. We will go through each one and talk about why they are important and why they're actually relevant to you guys. Overall, this information helps you, the business owner, more easily understand the procurement information you see when conducting market research and finding or responding to procurement opportunities. can help you know where to look for opportunities and know also where you will not find opportunities. A department is given purchase authority by Department of General Services or from another source. And the department need is actually rather quite simple. A department needs a good or a service because they do not have it or they cannot perform it, and they need to turn to the private sector in order to meet that through a contract. The acquisition method and solicitation format are a bit more complicated, so we're going to go through each one of those. Let's start with the acquisition method. So the acquisition method identifies how the purchase is to be made and what key activities within the procurement process should actually be followed. So when a state buyer goes to purchase something, a good or a service, they must decide which acquisition method they will be using. This is determined by many factors, including what they are purchasing, how much money they are spending, and what their purchasing authority actually is, and also what contracts exist, if any, and more. These are some of the common acquisition methods certified businesses will encounter. We will talk about each one on the upcoming slides. So we're going to go over the formal and informal competitive, SB DVBE option, fair and reasonable, emergency contracting, leverage procurement agreements, and knowing the acquisition method used to procure the goods and services a business sells helps that business find and pursue the right opportunities. And it helps you guys with market research. First, let's start with the formal and informal competitive method. So the formal and informal competitive acquisition method, this is normally what you think of when you think of a public competitive solicitation. It's a common competitive acquisition method used to purchase IT goods, IT services, and non-IT goods and non-IT services. It is competitively bid, as this name actually suggests. And it follows the procurement process we talked about, which involves identifying the department's need, developing the solicitation, which is typically written. This is great to know again from market research. And you're going to see two words, formal and informal. It is typically advertised in the California State Contracts Register, which is on Cali Procure, for at least 10 days. And if it is advertised, business with a UNMSPSC on your registration profile that matches the United Nations Standards Products and Services Code on the solicitation will actually get notified. Buyers can also reach out to businesses directly. And having the same UNMSPSC and relevant keywords on the business certifications profile will allow the buyer from the state of California to find those businesses and solicit them for bids. It may also allow for phone quotes based on dollar thresholds, and it'll also say so in the solicitation. It includes an evaluation and an award process where the buyer evaluates the bid responses and makes an award based on the evaluation criteria. The evaluation criteria can be low cost or best value, depending on how the solicitation is actually written. So the SB DVBE option is another form of an acquisition method. The SB DVBE option is exempt from advertising and therefore exclusive to SBs and DVBEs. That means if you're not certified, you're not included within this bidding process. The SB DVBE option is where state buyers choose either 2 certified SBs or 2 DVBEs to reach out to about a procurement. These procurements are for goods, services, and IT goods and services from $5,001 to $249,999. For public works, the threshold is $5,001 to $461,000. Buyers need at least 2 price quotes, so 2 from SBs or 2 from DVBEs, and this is called an informal bid process. So let me give you guys an example. So my office, the Office of Small Business and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Services, hires a photographer for our SARA Awards, which we conduct every single year. And the contract falls within the SB or DVBE option. So we tell our buyers only accept bids from certified SBs or DVBEs. And so our buyer looks at the best quotes and goes with the best ones. Lowest cost is the biggest deciding factor on this, and the second is best value. So you guys, the buyer, need to be very, very responsive. So don't wait weeks and weeks to get back to the buyer from the state of California if they're reaching out to you. You want to be quick. You want to be responsive, because if that buyer has already reached out to another small business and they get back to them, they've already done their due diligence. They reached out to two. One of them was responsive and one of them was not. So just be very responsive. And with this one, opportunities may find you more than you are actually going to be finding the opportunities. So this is very important to keep your keywords and your Kelly Procure profile up to date. Okay. Now, the fair and reasonable acquisition method is really the simplest and the most straightforward acquisition method for very small contracts, those under $10,000. The buyer from the state of California only needs to get one bid that they determine to be fair and reasonable, and they can award the contract. Well, it's possible for state buyers, they can solicit multiple bids from multiple businesses and receive and review multiple bids. Only one is required so long as it is fair and reasonable. And this one does not need to be a small business or a DVBE to win. This one is fair game. So the buyer from the state can use a variety of methods to make this fair and reasonable determination, which includes price comparison, catalog or market pricing, controlled pricing, looking at historical pricing, or a cost-benefit analysis. All right, let's go on to emergency contracting. So emergency contracting is another acquisition method certified businesses should really know about. We're all familiar with emergencies, especially here in California with our fires and our floods and our earthquakes, public health emergencies like the pandemic. Emergencies can also include something a little bit less widespread, but still urgent and concerning, like a pipe breaking in a state of California hospital. That situation is an emergency for the hospital, and that requires an immediate response. Because the state must respond absolutely immediately, the solicitation is not competitive. It's really not realistic in the example of a forest fire or a water pipe breaking in a hospital for the state to spend weeks writing up and then releasing a competitive solicitation and then receiving those bids, evaluating those bids, and then making an award. The state must act immediately. So the governor has to declare a state of emergency when there is a natural disaster. And the state purchases lots of different goods and services when dealing with emergencies, things that businesses don't always think of. So to support the inclusion of certified businesses in these contract opportunities, we actually created something called the SB and DVBE Emergency Registry. And the SB DVBE Emergency Registry is separate from Kelly Procure, and it is used by state of California buyers to find certified businesses that are ready, willing, and able to support the state of California in the event of an emergency. So buyers from the state of California log on to this registry and look for businesses when an emergency strikes, and they can also do that in between emergencies to get an idea of who is on there. Only certified businesses can register in the emergency registry. And when you register, instead of using keywords and UNNSPSEs to describe what you guys sell, you will select from a predetermined list of goods and services. And this really just simplifies things for businesses and for buyers. And then it builds confidence that the businesses that do sign up are a really good fit for an emergency. So if you are a small business or a DVBE and you're ready and willing and able to support the state in the event of an emergency, then go ahead and look into the registry and go ahead and get signed up. If not, please wait until you are. It's really important that buyers can, in an emergency, quickly and confidently find businesses that respond to an emergency. So we all know that emergencies don't happen from 9 to 5, right? They happen at 3 a.m. when you don't have a babysitter. So you really want to make sure that if you say that you have 45 porta potties in San Diego, that when the state of California contacts you at 3 a.m. when you don't have a babysitter, that you can successfully, do what you said that you were going to do. You have those porta potties in the area that you said you were servicing, and that you're able to be deployed to do that. So really important. These are some of the emergency registry categories. You guys heard me say that you will pick one or more category. And you have to select one or more. You can definitely do more. This is just an example of debris removal, fire protection, information technology, medical, roadway maintenance. There is also miscellaneous services and miscellaneous products. And so I was once asked, I do trauma-informed services during, is this something that the state would be interested in for the emergency registry? And I said, absolutely. Like, go ahead, sign up. And my pro tip for all of you guys out there is there's going to be a little spot and it says description. I want you guys to write the most robust description about those products and services that you can offer to the state of California within that description. So if you have a ladder that you can use during an emergency, I want to know how many ladders you have, what areas you can serve. Is it the whole state of California, or is it just certain counties? I want to know the dimensions of the ladder, all things. So the more details you put in there, the more helpful it will actually be to those state of California buyers during a critical time when they need to find a firm to contract with for an emergency. So that's my pro tip for you guys for today. In order to sign up, you will need a couple of things. You will obviously need your certification number because this is a certified or exclusive benefit to only certified firms, right? So you need your certification number. You're going to have to choose an emergency category. Like I said, one or more, right in that description. Description of products or services, very important. You definitely want your business address and then your contact information. Of course, after hours, emergencies, don't happen, during working hours. They often happen at other times. So with that, we will go ahead and we will check our chat over here and see what we have before we get into LPAs. Okay, so we have one. What is the most desired NAICS or service, IT or financial management, that California government is seeking, and how does a SDVOSB with minimal past performance get in the door? Okay, so this is a great question. I'm going to say this is a really great question we had. It's because people often ask me about NAICS codes, right? But the state of California doesn't use NAICS codes. So if you guys have done federal contracting, you're probably very used to NAICS codes. Those are completely separate than UNSPSC codes. So they are two different things. So when we're talking about NAICS codes, that is federal funding, which is not state. We use United Nations Standards Products and Services codes. It really depends. I would definitely recommend, and something that we actually love to do, is you can send us an email with exactly what services or products that you offer to the state of California. We can show you how to look up those UNSPSC codes. You can also look them up in your, when you get registered and certified, but we also have the data dashboards, and the data dashboards are located at dgs.ca.gov, and you guys can type in dashboards and they will show you the most used United Nations Standards Products and Services codes. I don't know them off the top of my head what they are right now because it depends on the season, depends on the level, but definitely if you email me or schedule a one-on-one appointment with me or anybody in our team, then we can take a deeper dive into there. But there's lots of access to our data dashboards that we can provide to you. Can you provide a link to the DVBE certification process for those of us who need to recertify? Yes, I can definitely do that. It's going to be caleprocure.ca.gov. And I put that in the website so Daniel can hopefully pull it over to you guys. And then do they tell you if it's low cost? So I think that what you guys are asking about is how they decide, right? If it's low cost or best value, not generally, right? So, but the thing with solicitations is, if you have any questions, you always want to be able to reach out to that person on the solicitation, or which I'm going to show you guys in a second. the person who's, or the team members who are in charge of that specific leverage procurement agreement, for instance, which is coming up. One question, how to make a one-on-one appointment with you. I'm going to show you at the end. We have a QR code. Also, you can always email me and I can email you the QR code and the appointment scheduler. Lots of different ways. You guys will also be receiving these slides. So if you're furiously taking notes right now, you can relax a little bit. You'll get these slides so that you can use it as a guide, which is our intention to help you through. It's a lot of information, a lot to cover. It's really thick. It is also level 3 of these webinars that we've been doing. So there's also 1 and 2 that you guys can check out. This is level 3 of after you get certified. Do you also have set-asides for women-owned businesses as well? So the state of California offers 3 certifications: small business for the purpose of public works, and disabled veteran business enterprise services. Those are the only certifications that the state of California offers. So we don't offer women-owned, minority-owned ones. Those will be on the federal side. So the state of California only offers our 3. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and go on a little bit. We got a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and move on to leverage procurement agreements. So a leverage procurement agreement, or an LPA, which you will hear me say when I reference this, it's an agreement between the state and 1 or more businesses to sell specific goods or services to the state for agreed upon pricing requirements and then other terms and conditions, and for the state of California to purchase those goods or services as they need them. So this is a standing agreement for the state to conduct a procurement for a specific need. So DGS establishes these agreements, and other state departments use these agreements when they're doing their purchasing, all while adhering to applicable policies, procedures, and then the user instructions for that LPA. LPAs may also be available to local entities like counties, cities, and special districts and education systems, and then some other government entities. It varies from one LPA to another. The user instructions of an LPA are used to determine who is allowed to actually use that leverage procurement agreement. So these agreements are awarded for $0 because it only sets up the framework to allow the businesses to sell their products and services to the state for an already agreed upon pricing and quantity as they need it. So when the LPA is set up, the state can project a dollar amount that they expect to be spent through the LPA over the length of the agreement, giving you guys an idea of how much money that they can expect to make. And really, LPAs enable us streamline purchases by removing repetitive or resource-intensive, costly, and time-consuming solicitation processes by the state departments, and they can last multiple years. So they can last 2, 5 years. So these are some of the LPAs that DGS creates. These are ones that we also think are really important for you guys to know about. So we're going to go through each one and then talk about what they are, how they work, and what a business needs to do in order to get one of these agreements. So this is just a sampling. We're going to cover master agreements, statewide contracts, software licensing program, cooperative agreements, and then California Multiple Award Schedule, CMAS. And you can find all this information at www.caliprocure.ca.gov. And again, we're going to be looking at public procurement information. Okay, one by one, here we go. First one we're going to cover is master agreements. Master agreements are contracts that are competitively bid when established. So they are advertised on the CSCR, which is in Cali Procure, and businesses will learn about the opportunity in the same way as other public competitive solicitations. Notifications from Cali Procure and appearing in supplier searches conducted by buyers through your keywords and your UNNSPSCs. Master agreements may be awarded to multiple businesses, meaning it could be awarded to up to like 5 businesses. And it depends on the contract and whether multiple awards is actually appropriate. If there are multiple awards, that will be made clear within the specific solicitation. When one or more businesses are awarded the agreement, state departments and potentially other entities can use that agreement to purchase from those businesses as needed. The process of purchasing may require offers. In the case of a contract awarded to multiple businesses, the buyer would get offers from those businesses as opposed to just selecting one of the businesses and making a purchase. This process of soliciting offers adds a measure of competition among the businesses that were awarded this specific leveraged procurement agreement. So these LPAs are available to any agency that expend public funds. If making an offer is required, departments must select offers from a minimum of 3 suppliers, including 1 SB and 1 DVBE when available. Requires offers, so individual user instructions direct users on how to obtain best value offers in accordance with state policy requirements. State agencies may only contract with suppliers that have a valid MA agreement with the state of California and must use the terms and conditions offered under those agreements. No further offer required. So state agencies may issue orders against these master agreements in accordance with user instructions. Purchasing authority dollar threshold is unlimited for this acquisition method. These MAs are based on an award to a single supplier where further competition would not or could not be achieved, or where the MA is mandatory. Therefore, no further competition is necessary when state agencies use these contracts. So an example, credit card acceptance, electronic library services does not require further competition since these MAs were created via the NCB process. Okay, so with every single LPA, we're going to give you examples to give you guys a better idea. So for master agreements, which is a form of a leveraged procurement agreement, these are a few examples of what can be purchased through the current master agreements held by certified businesses. So on-site confidential destruction services, PPE waste removal services, technology, digital, and data consulting services, medical staffing, transit processor services, unarmed security guard services. Okay, so moving over, so remember, leveraged procurement agreement or LPA is our umbrella. These are different leveraged procurement agreements under the umbrella, right? So this one is the statewide contracts. And statewide contracts are competitively bid and they are for commonly purchased goods. They're often done as single awards, although there are some multiple awards. They are usually established as mandatory for state departments to use. That means if a department wants to purchase a good that is on a mandatory statewide contract, they are required to purchase through this statewide contract. As far as an off-ramp, I know there was a question related to women-owned off-ramps, but this is for the SB DVBE off-ramp. So generally an SB or DVBE off-ramp is where departments will be permitted to purchase equivalent products at the same or lower price meets from certified SBs or DVBEs, even if that certified business does not have that specific statewide contract, so long as the business requirements of the statewide contract, so long as they meet the requirements of the statewide contract. So to determine whether a particular statewide contract has an SB or DVBE off-ramp, you will consult the statewide contract details and the user instructions, okay? So you need to look at all the user instructions for the statewide contract in order to determine if it has an SB or DVBE off-ramp. Examples, we love our examples. These are a few of goods purchased through the statewide contracts currently held by certified businesses. So asphalt, food items, rice flour, grains, sugar, herbicides and insecticides, rainwear, roadway signs, tablets, tires, traffic cones. The next leveraged procurement agreement is different than the other ones. So the software licensing program, we call it SLP. So Department of General Services negotiates departments with software publishers for the purchase of various software. These agreements are negotiated, they are not bid. And then, like I said before, this one is different than all the other acquisition methods and the leveraged procurement agreements that we've discussed so far. Since these ones are negotiated, there's no solicitation for businesses to respond to, and there's nothing that is actually advertised on the CSCR. It is a very different process. It's the software publisher will enter a negotiation directly with the state, or the state of California will approach a software publisher. Additionally, software publishers do not sell directly to the state. Instead, they use somebody or people called resellers, which they and they alone authorize, using and following whatever processes and methods that they choose. Publishers can authorize between 3 to 6 resellers. The state does not play a role in the selection of these resellers. If a certified business wants to become a reseller for a software publisher that has an SLP agreement, that business, you guys, need to work directly with the publisher. Publishers can change resellers throughout the life of an agreement, and they can do that up to twice a year. There is also contact information, which you guys will see here. Contact SLP if you are a publisher. So when I see a publisher, those are typically pretty big businesses like Adobe, DocuSign, IBM, right? Those are the publishers, and then the publishers hire those resellers underneath them, and they do that on their own. So these are examples of what is purchased through an SLP agreement. Businesses have SLP agreements as resellers selling various kinds of software to fill various business needs, such as software from Adobe, IBM, DocuSign, Cisco, and more. So software, maintenance and support, implementation, training, installation, and software as a service. Some things that are not available. That's important too, right? Not available through the SLP. So things like standalone hardware, tablet, computer, mouse, keyboard, those kind of things. SLP is normally for larger established businesses. And the resellers can actually be you guys. That's where you come in and you want to contact those suppliers directly. Okay. All right, moving on forward, you guys, cooperative agreements. So cooperative agreements are another form of a leveraged procurement agreement, okay, under the umbrella. And they establish cooperative multi-state contracts where participating states may join together to achieve a cost-effective and efficient acquisition of quality products and services. So cooperative agreements were established from master agreements, competitively bid by another entity, such as another state or a group of states that work together. These ones are advertised in the CSCR, so on Kelly Procure, current solicitations. So businesses can see them and get notified about them in Kelly Procure, and then you would respond to it as if it was any other competitive solicitation. When a cooperative agreement is established by a state other than California, it may still be advertised in Kelly Procure on the CSCR. However, the advertisement is simply to direct the business to the procurement system of another state, and the business must follow the procurement process of that state. Another way for businesses to become a part of the cooperative agreement is as a reseller. And a reseller is a business that does not hold the cooperative agreement themselves, that has been identified and authorized as a reseller by a business that holds the cooperative agreement. The business that holds the agreement makes all the decisions about becoming a reseller. The state does not play any role in selecting resellers. The only requirement the state does have is that all resellers must meet the minimum meet the requirements of the cooperative agreement itself. The agreement holder can change resellers based on the terms of the agreement, and they can do that as often as once a quarter. Cooperative agreements may require offers, which just means that a buyer, when using the agreements to purchase a good or a service, must let offers from multiple businesses that hold the agreement or authorize resellers. This process then becomes competitive among those being solicited. Some agreements do not require offers, which means that the buyer can simply purchase at will. And as the name suggests, cooperative agreements are used by many states and local entities, and after all, that is actually their purpose. So for instance, to put this plainly, a cooperative agreement is multi-states, right? So maybe California and Utah join together for this leveraged procurement agreement. You would be able to go to Cali Procure. You'd get notified that there's a UNNSPSC code that matched your UNNSPSC code, something you do. or a product you sell, and it'll take you and redirect you to maybe Utah's Cali Procure, right? Their centralized website for procurement. So that is what a cooperative agreement looks like. Another example of what can be purchased through current cooperative agreements include laboratory equipment and supplies, cloud solution, copiers, managed print services, data communications, instructions, public safety communications, on-demand remote interpreting and document translation, facilities maintenance and repair operations. Okay, I see we have some questions. We'll get there in just a second. But first, I do want to dive into California multiple award schedules. We call this CMAS. We love our acronyms here at the state. And this is just another type of leveraged procurement agreement that is available to state agencies and local governments to procure various goods and services. So as the name suggests, getting a CMAS does not involve competitive bidding or negotiation, but instead requires a business to apply for a schedule. What is a schedule? Well, a schedule is a list of goods and services with already set pricing, terms, and conditions. There are many schedules, and they are created and maintained by the federal government. So the state of California just mirrors the federal government program to create the California Multiple Award Schedule. A schedule also contains pre-established pricings and terms and conditions. To become a holder of the schedule, you have to apply. A business does not have to sell everything listed on a schedule to get it. It just needs to sell something on that schedule and meet the requirements of that specific schedule. Because this is an application process, multiple businesses can and do hold the same schedule. The result is a pool of suppliers that the state can actually solicit offers from. And this creates competition, but competition among the pool of schedule holders when the state or another entity goes to procure a good or a service through CMAS. That means that businesses should still treat this like a competitive environment where marketing one's business is important. Pricing can also be key here. So CMAS sets the maximum pricing, but businesses could offer lower rates, which could be really good for you guys. So what you want to do is contact the CMAS unit, which is right here. There's our email for information on exclusions and additional information. So we actually have a team that works on this as their job with the state, and they are fabulous. And every time I have a question, I reach out to them. So I definitely encourage you guys to reach out to our CMAS team if you have questions about it. As promised, like the other leveraged procurement agreements, these are a few examples of what can be purchased through our CMAS. And schedules that are currently held by certified businesses. So IT consultant services, written translation services, computer hardware technology, office supplies, automotive repair, business administration services. Lots of different things on there. And CMAS is really one of our most popular leveraged procurement agreements that we see. These are not included in CMAS. So medical services, registered nursing, human resources, not a part of CMAS, security guard services, legal services, public works project, engineering. Okay. This is an important slide. Remember, again, you guys will get these slides, so you're going to have these. Okay. But what you want to do to apply for a CMAS and to get additional information, including a step-by-step instructional guide, which is pretty cool. You can go to the CMAS portal at dgs.servicenow.ca/CMAS. Click on Create Account, click on New Company Registration Only, and click Apply for CMAS. You guys can also go to dgs.ca.gov, DGS, Department of General Services. And there's a little search box at the top right, which is my favorite go-to whenever I need to look up this. And you can always type in LPAs. You can literally type in CMAS, and it's going to bring up all this amazing information for you. But it's also going to tell you this information. And this is information to have ready if you want to apply for the CMAS. It's also on the webpage if you click on CMAS on dgs.ca.gov. But if you have this information ahead of time, it's going to make the whole process a lot easier. So the schedule you want. So when they say the schedule you want, it's going to talk about the GSA schedule. And the GSA schedule is going to contain the products, services, and maximum prices that you can offer. And the base schedule can be held either by your company or by another company. And the GA schedule number is also going to be needed. It is the official contract number awarded to the contractor. And these typically begin with a GS or 47Q. Just a note, a separate CMS application must be submitted for each base schedule offered. Services such as installation, maintenance, and repair must be priced in the base schedule to be included in a CMS. And the base schedule pricing is the maximum pricing allowed when using a CMS. You can offer all the products and services available on the base schedule or only portions of it, okay? All products and services must be priced in the base schedule to be offered in your CMS. You also need to have your business name. This information can be found at businesssearch.sos.ca.gov. That is Secretary of State, right? Companies doing business or DBAs, a different name than is registered with the California Secretary of State, you do need to include a valid fictitious business number. California county or city the statement was actually filed with, and the expiration date. This information is filed with the California county or the city. So when the company has no place of business in California, they need to file with Sacramento County Clerk. Okay. Fiscal and vendor ID. So companies new to state purchasing may not have been registered in our fiscal system. You will not have a fiscal vendor ID. And if you do not have an ID, an analyst will contact you for a payee data record or STD 204 to register your company within fiscal. And the payee data record must include your legal business name as shown in the California Secretary of State, your DBA name, if that's applicable, if you have a DBA name. For line 1, the name must also match the federal employer identification number or social security number that is being used. In most cases, this will be your business name, and any DBA names will go on the line below. You also want to have your contact information, your company's contact person, and their contact information. So this person is really just the first point of contact for customers needing information about or a copy of your company's CMS. Only one person's name can be provided for this purpose, and the name and the contact information number will be shown in the resulting agreement and at the CMS website, along with your company name and the CMS schedule number. You need your California Secretary of State registration. Of course, your SB DVBE certification. So if your company is a California Certified Small Business or DVBE, you want to include your certification number and the expiration date. So just to note that Department of General Services waives the administration fee charged to state agencies if they place their CMS orders with a California certified SB. Also, the incentive fee charged to contractors for local agency CMS orders is waived if the contractor is a certified SBs. So in marketing, in these webinars, Contracting with the State of California in 1 and 2, we talked to you guys about why marketing to those State of California advocates was so highly important. It is still highly important to market when you hold a CMS because of these fees getting waived since you are a certified firm, okay? If you're on a CMS, you need to let the State of California advocates know, hey, I am on a CMS. I'm a CMS holder. I'm a certified business, okay? So it's still important here. Another thing you're going to need is your California's contractor's license. All companies who construct or alter any building, highway, road, or parking facility, railroad, excavation, or other public structure in California must be licensed by the Contractor's State License Board. That is CSLB. And license can be verified on the CLSB website. This type of work is considered public works. And there are special requirements for public works components. So I definitely urge you to take a look at those components. California Resellers Permit. So in accordance with Public Contract Code Section 10295.1, before being awarded a state of California contract to provide personal tangible property, your firm must hold a valid California seller's permit or certification of registration. Okay, so an FYI on that. You're probably asking yourself, how do I search all these? What do I do? I'm going to show you. Okay, so this should look familiar to you guys. This is CalEProcure. That is www.caleprocure.ca.gov. This is the state of California centralized marketplace. This is also where you guys want to get certified, registered and certified with the state of California. This is also the place where, if you've done our previous webinars, you could do market research. You look at past purchases, you find current solicitations, but you can also find leveraged procurement agreements. And I'm going to show you how to find those. Go to the main page. You're going to go to Sell to the State over on the left right there. Click the link at the bottom of the page right down there where it's highlighted to search currently available and established leveraged procurement agreements. It will bring up this page. And just like in the other search parameters, this one is very similar. You can search existing leveraged procurement agreements, and there's various criteria that you can search by, such as description. Remember, description is your keywords, okay? If you need to know more about keywords, I suggest you take level 2, I'm Certified Now What, where we go over all of that in this webinar. And you can just hit search, and the leverage procurement agreements will go ahead and pop up. All right, so we're going to open it up to some questions and answers, and I'm going to do my best to go ahead and go over them within the chat. I also, let's see what we got. Let me scroll the way up here. Okay, let's find where we left off. We did that one. Okay. If our competitor already has an LPA, when do we get an opportunity to compete with them to secure an LPA in the future? Do we have to wait until their LPAs expires and all the extensions expires? So that is a really great question. And something that I did want to bring up is, yeah, I mean, leveraged procurement agreements can last 2 to 5 years, and it really depends. You can definitely take a look. And let me back up a little bit. How do you know if you need to even get an LPA, right? That is the many questions that I get very often. And the thing I say to certified businesses is, when you're looking at past purchases and you're looking at what state of California departments are buying what you're selling, you look at the acquisition method. And if you see, for instance, that my service or product that I'm selling has been previously bought, but the way that the state of California departments are buying it is through a CMAS, I know I need to be on a CMAS because that's where the state of California departments are buying it, right? Perfect. So I would want to look up all the requirements for that specific one. If my competitor is on there, then yeah, same thing. If your competitor and you've realized that the state of California departments are buying off of that leveraged procurement agreement, exactly, you are going to want to be on that leveraged procurement agreement. So you do need to see when it expires. You do need to see when you can be on it. It really depends. There's so many different leveraged procurement agreements. So you would want to consult the user agreements to see if you can enter it. If it's a CMAS, for instance, you would do an application, right? So you would definitely want to look in that specific leverage procurement agreement. If it is one that is has a time limit from 2 to 5 years, for instance, then you might have to wait. But definitely it depends, right? And that's one of those things where it depends because there's a whole bunch of leverage procurement agreements. Is there a list of current SLP used by the state available? Like I said, you can go ahead. I would go to dgs.ca.gov, my favorite place to go, and you can click on SLP, Software Licensing Program, and you can click and read all things software licensing program that you need to know and that we have. Again, you can also use skippers. So that's where you go into CalEProcure, you go down on past purchases, and then you can see what the acquisition type was for the same products and services you sell. And then you can see a list of the software, the SLP holders, and you contact them directly because we don't work with the resellers, we work directly with the SLP holder. Do you have any advice on how a reseller can get involved with the publisher? Yeah, that's a great question. So you want to reach out directly with the publisher. You want to reach out directly, let them know that you're a certified firm with the state of California, and reach out directly to that holder publisher. Is a CMAS application process similar to the federal government GSA schedule process? I can't speak on the federal side of things, but you can actually view the whole entire application without even applying by going to our CMAS website. So that is definitely something that I would encourage you to look. You do need a schedule, right? So like I said before, the state of California mirrors the federal GSA schedule. Okay, so it's very, very similar. You don't have to sell everything on a schedule, but you have to do at least one, right? You do have to apply to be on a CMAS. That's one of the next questions. And I would reach out to them and look at those user instructions for the CMAS, but you do have to apply. Can we use the contractor's license of the company we are representing to complete the work? I feel like I need more information about that. I would definitely suggest email me so we can get additional information for that specific one to look into. A lot of them, unfortunately, is like, it depends because there's so much information. But definitely, let's go ahead and move on. And we're probably going to have some time after we can go back to if I don't cover it here. All right. So this is a common question. If a solicitation or contract opportunity is not advertised, how are you going to learn about it? And how do you guys find it? Well, here's the thing is you don't. So the solicitation or contract opportunity finds you guys. So the state of California buyer who is in charge of the specific procurement finds you and your company and decides to solicit a response directly from you. The way that the buyer from the state of California finds your company is through Cali Procure. And like I've mentioned a couple of times, you guys, this is why it is super, super important and essential that you have an updated and robust Cali Procure profile, right? You want to make sure that your keywords are up to date and it's actually what you do, that you have a long list of keywords, including synonyms, that you have plural and singular words in there as well, technical jargon and general jargon in there. Okay, so they can find you. You have UNNSPSCs that are applicable to the services products that you could sell to the state of California. Okay. And now we finished talking about acquisition methods. We're going to talk now about solicitation formats. So these are some of the more common solicitation formats certified businesses can expect to encounter. The format of a solicitation is influenced by the acquisition type and the acquisition method, which we've talked about already, and the dollar amount, complexity of the procurement, and then other risk factors. The solicitation format also contribute to how the procurement will be conducted and what the buyer expects of the business in submitting a bid. Knowing the solicitation format can help you guys understand these parts of the procurement, help you to better assess how your company is able to fill the solicitation and be successful in responding to that specific solicitation. So we will go through each one. First one we're going to talk about is the RFQ. So RFQ is the most common written solicitation format used to conduct informal competitive acquisitions. So request for quotation, RFQ, is a straightforward procurement format that identifies what the need is or request a proposed solution and tends to be low in risk and complexity. So generally used for straightforward procurements, it has very low risk. It just lists what's needed by item, quantity, and price. It says, hey, I need this for this much, and this is my quantity. Lists what's needed by item, quantity, and price. IT goods, IT services, and non-IT goods services. The dollar thresholds is generally from $0 to $100,000. All right. And this is often accomplished via email as well. Okay. The next one is IFB, or Invitation for Bid. This one is a written solicitation document used to solicit bid responses for non-IT goods or for IT goods and services, where suppliers are asked to provide a bid to the state's known and detailed clear requirements. So an IFB is also used to obtain simple, common, or routine non-IT services that may require personal or mechanical skills where little discretion is used in performing the work, such as routine pest control, equipment maintenance, repair, uniform rentals. An IFB can also be used for public works projects. So basically, the requesting agency from the state knows exactly what it wants. They just need the bids, okay? So for an IFB, the state provides a complete statement of work. It's complete SOW, describing everything that the state needs you guys to accomplish. They tell you all the work, all the supplies, all the personnel, and then they even give you a time frame. And IFB is typically awarded by low cost. However, with all these, there's always exceptions to these, like it depends, right? So RFPs are used to obtain complex services in which professional expertise is needed, and it may vary. So more rigorous evaluation of bidder qualifications, award based on weighted criteria. There's a primary RFP, which just means low cost, and the secondary RFP, which means best value. Okay. Moving on to request for offer, also known as an RFO. This is done when purchasing against a leveraged procurement agreement. And a request for offer is a document sent to LAP, leveraged procurement contractors, which contains requirements for a specific transaction and requests for specific responses or offers. So the individual user instructions of the LPA will indicate whether additional offers are required. So an example. So a consultant with a CMAS gets an RFO to provide IT consulting services, and the business responds, as do other CMAS holders. The buyer from the state of California evaluates the bids and responses and awards the contract. Okay. So they just want offers. Okay. Q&A, I don't see any, and let's keep going because we still have some more to go through. We are going to talk about contract readiness. This is important. We are here to help you guys. We're here to help you at no charge. That is our main goal. This is a lot of information jam-packed. So let's talk about some contract readiness. And there's some things that you really should consider to determine if you're ready for a contract. I'm being on one of the leveraged procurement agreements, for instance, some of these. So first and foremost, do you meet the requirements? So before you do a lot of work to submit a bid for a solicitation or try to get a leveraged procurement agreement, make sure that you meet all of the requirements. I would hate for you guys to do all of the work for something that you realize you could ultimately not do. Also, you want to ask yourself, do I have the financial capacity for this? The state of California often pays after you complete the work, not beforehand. It can take up to 45 days for the state of California to actually pay you. And so you need to make sure that you actually have the financial capacity to complete the contract. So how are you going to stay afloat if the state doesn't pay you until even after you submitted an on-time complete invoice? State of California, super duper important, right? And you also want to ask yourself, can you deliver on the contract? And this is really asking about your capacity to completely fulfill the contract. You need to assess if you can do this, or maybe this contract is too large for your business to handle right now. And that is okay if it is, okay? This is why this is level 3 of our series of webinars, is because we really have to ask ourselves some really hard questions about this. You want to make sure that you have, the capacity, the capability to do these, because we all are here to help you, do the best you can, but ultimately you are in charge of fulfilling the contracts that you're signing up for. Also consider eligibility and evaluation criteria. So thinking about your past performance, required experience, and your skills, and the capacity of the business. Are you eligible to do this project? And some quick tips to make you successful. do not let your certification, so your SB, your DVBE, or your SB for the purpose of public works certification lapse. You could really miss out on an opportunity. You want to keep it up to date and renew it when you need to. They're good for 2 years, so every other year you need to recertify. I can't stress this enough. Make sure you guys keep your Cali Procure information current and up to date, so that those buyers from the state of California can find you. Make sure that you hold any and all certifications and licenses you need to perform the work. So depending on the leverage procurement agreement or the acquisition method, if it says you need, this to perform the work, the certification or license, make sure you have that. And make sure that you have the needed insurance. Depending on the type of work you do, you may need to have insurance. Generally, insurance is required when performing services for the state, but not all the time for goods or products. These are some common mistakes that we see. So just a heads up, you guys, forgetting to sign all the documents, make sure your signature is everywhere it needs to be. Forgetting to return all requested documentations or forms. Not responding by the deadline. And you guys, the deadline sometimes has the time. So there's a timestamp on there. So if it needs to be in by 2:35 p.m. on a specific date, you need to make sure it's in by 2:35 p.m. on that specific date, or it might not count. Ignoring historical information available for pricing, etc. Incorrect calculations, tax rate, etc. on the documents, and then leaving out required permits, licenses, and bondings. Some tips for success. So if you have questions about this, you want to ask early on. Okay, do not wait until the end to ask your questions. And the people you want to go to are, if you're interested in getting a CMAS, you want to contact the CMAS people individually. If you need help finding all those resources and different leverage procurement agreements, contact me and I will find you those resources. Okay, but for those intricate application questions, we will go to them. We will ask them specifically. They do it day in, day out. They're amazing at what they all do. You always want to read the solicitation documents and then make sure you understand them. And I said this before, but I'll say it again. As much as we really want to help you, at the end of the day, you need to be able to read the solicitation and then understand what it says and what is needed of you and your business. Tips for success. If you secure a state of California contract, congratulations. That is amazing. That is great. But it also means that you are legally bound to deliver on this contract. If you do not, it is not good for your business. Failing on a state contract could really hurt your reputation and make it more difficult to get subsequent contracts moving forward. We mentioned this before, but many jobs do not pay until the work is done, up to 45 days after receiving an undisputed invoice to do so. So think about how your business will stay financed during this period of time when you're doing this work on this contract. Okay, super duper important. All right, let's see. So this is a great question. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel is doing such a great job. For new questions, start here. Where can I get help with reviewing the contract, submitting bids, etc.? I'm fairly new to government contract. That is a fabulous question. So there are many, many resources, which I'm going to share with you in a second. But one of the ones is the Southwest Veterans Business Resource Center, which can help you. There's also the small business, the SBDCs, which is small business development centers. They are nonprofit organizations up and down the coast of California where they can help you with reviewing contracts, submitting bids, doing your capability statements, finding bids that are right for you and your business. I will also give you guys our information to schedule a one-on-one appointment with me or any of my colleagues to help you find the resources that you need. Again, my last slide is giving you these resources as well. There's also Apex accelerators that assist businesses up and down the state of California with reviewing contracts, submitting bids, etc., capability statements, and other things, right? Helping new businesses get off the ground. So definitely reach out to them. There's also SCORE, which are mentors, normally retirees from business executives who are there to help you guys. So lots of resources available to you for to help you. And we are all here to help you, right? So these are all no charge. I do want to get on to this, and this is commercially useful function. So this and the next slide cover commercially useful function. And this really applies to all small businesses and disabled veteran business enterprise services bidding and participating in the contract. So this includes any SBs or DVBEs that substitute the listed SBs or DVBEs during the contract term, regardless of the procurement approach or payment method used. So you perform CUF if you know that you're performing CUF. If you're executing a distinct element of the work, you're doing what you say you're going to do, right? You've read that contract, you know what you're supposed to do, and you're doing it. You're performing, you're managing, you're supervising the work. You're negotiating the price, determining the quality and the quantity, and you're ordering, installing, you're making the payments as when needed. And you are not subcontracting a portion of the work that is greater than expected by industry standards, okay? You are also performing work that is normal for the firm's business services or functions, okay? So pretty much you are doing what you say that you are going to do when you enter the contract. If you guys have any questions about this, I would absolutely say reach out to your contract administrator and ask them about it. They're there to help you, and answer questions. So definitely make sure you answer or ask your questions early on. If you're confused about anything, ask about that. Your business does not perform CUF if you're an extra participant in a transaction, contract, or project through which funds are being passed in order to obtain appearance of SV or DVBE participation. You're not being used to perform the work as stipulated in the bid. So said you're selling office supplies, you are no longer selling office supplies, you're actually painting buildings. That is not what you signed up to do, okay? That is not what we're doing here. If you're no longer used to provide goods or services listed in the initial bid response, and again, ask questions early on, be honest and be upfront, okay? And I do see we have a question, but I want to get through this one and then I'll answer it. We talked a little bit in the Q&As about resources. Now, we did talk about the small business development centers. Small business development centers really help new businesses, business consulting, planning, marketing, access to capital, finding bids, doing your capability statements, so many things. What you can actually do is type in SBDC and your city and make an appointment with the local chapter in your area. There's also Apex accelerators. These generally work with established businesses, but they help with government contracting as well. And their SCORE, which we went over, they help newer businesses. They do business mentorship with executives in your specific field, and they are there to help you. And now, here's the thing, you guys. These are no cost to you. So these are amazing resources for your small business or DVBE to get that help. You guys are busy running a business. We know that, right? This is extra additional work. And there are people out there who can help you at no charge. So definitely reach out to your resources, you guys. You want to reach out to the Southwest Veterans Business Resource Center right here. They can connect you and give you resources such as networking opportunities. They have a huge network and they can connect you to maybe prime contractors and people that you want to do business with, or introduce you to people that have done it. And you can research how have they done it and what can I do to mirror that. So definitely coming here is a great start to you working with the state of California or continuing your work with the state of California. We covered so much. It's a lot of information, this level 3, you guys. But this is so that when you're hearing these terms, you at least now will have an idea of what they are talking about. So it's not just over your head, because it is a lot, right? We talked about how the state buys. We talked about acquisition methods, okay? We talked about leverage procurement agreements. So LPAs, remember, those are those umbrellas. Awarded at $0. And then under those LPAs are different types of leverage procurement agreements, right? Stay away contract, CMAS, SLP program, all those, okay? We talked about solicitation formats, remember RFQs, RFOs, all those. And we talked about commercially useful function, laws, regulations that go along with having a state of California contract and why they're important to do. You're doing what you say you were going to do. If you do not follow commercially useful function and you find that you have neglected commercially useful function and you're not performing that, there could be sanctions and penalties and potentially jail time. So that's why it's really important. You're signing up for a contract with the state of California, so you have to abide by that. And last but not least, we gave you some resources. And again, lean on your resources. Share the work, right? Get some assistance if you need it, especially from nonprofits through up and down the state of California who are literally here to work with you. With that, we do have a LinkedIn page. I know you guys are all virtual out there. So if you would like to follow us on LinkedIn, this is what it looks like. Office of Small Business and DVBE Services, California Department of General Services. They post every Wednesday. I think they post about 3 times a week about some upcoming events and Wednesday watch list, which is exciting. Okay, this is it. So you guys, if you have your phones, now is the time to get it out. And you can click on the camera and then click on the QR code and you can scan this. You can book an appointment. Okay. Book an appointment with us. This is our QR code. It's through Outlook Office 365. If this, for whatever reason, is not working for you, you can always email me and I am happy to help you guys. Again, this is my email. So it is joann.patty@dgs.ca.gov. I highly recommend emailing me. It's the most efficient way to get a hold of me because I do things like this, or I'm out talking to people. And so an email, I can look at it, gather information, to get back to you, set up a time with you. Daniel will be sending out these PowerPoints afterwards. So you will get these to use these as a guide. But if for some reason you miss it, reach out to me and I'll send it to you too. That's totally fine. Again, it's a lot of information, so I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for everything that you need and that you have. So with that, dump your questions into the chat, and Daniel will go ahead and write them in there so I can take a little peek at them and hopefully be able to answer some questions for you guys over here. Okay, I'll leave this up for a couple more minutes too. I know there's a 15-second delay from you guys to me, so I'm going to be waiting it out a little bit to see if you guys have some questions. But other than that, that is our presentation for today. If you don't got anything, you guys are free to escape.